Well, good day, everybody, and welcome back. Well, I got a car full of stuff, and I'm heading over to the Cherry Hills Library. So, we had an offer to set up a typewriter display case at the Cherry Hills Library. They have a display case every month. A different group or a different person puts up a different theme, and we're doing a typewriter theme for the month of May. So, today is May 1st. I'm going to head over to Cherry Hills Library, meet my friend Matthew, and we're going to get all set up. So the cabinet is 4 shelves. They're each glass except for the bottom shelf, so that limits the amount of weight that we can put on each shelf. So I can't fit in like a Selectric or an SG1. But the shelves are also only 22 inches square, so it limits the amount of space and weight. So I have 4 boxes here, one for each shelf. I've already figured out what I think is going to be the layout. I have little signs, little tags, little information things for all of those. And the people that donated to this particular project were myself, Matthew Bouchard, and John Lewis, the typewriter repair expert here in Albuquerque, submitted some really cool stuff also. So before we head over to the Cherry Hills Library and set up, let's talk about how I organized all of this. What was my thinking process? Well, I had 4 shelves, each 22 inches square. There were 15 inches between shelves, so that limits the height and the footprint of typewriters. The top 3 shelves, because they're made of 1/4-inch thick plate glass, limits the weight that I could use. So I didn't want to use a larger typewriter on the top 3 shelves. So that limited my selection to small portable typewriters. So I think the centerpiece of the collection I wanted to be on the top shelf, the Corona 3. My Corona 3 has had a lot of work done to it by Bill Wall in Mesa, Arizona, and New Rubber, and it looks beautiful. And it's one of the nicest Corona 3s that I've seen, and I think it was a centerpiece of the collection. So that would be at the top shelf. And then Matthew had his brother-made Webster XL747, the robin's egg blue typewriter that I thought was a real looker also. And so we put that on the second shelf. That's not too heavy of a typewriter. And then I had a Hermes Rocket that I thought would be a good typewriter for the third shelf. And then for the fourth shelf, which is a more solid one, I got my Corona Standard from 1938, the flat top piano looking machine, and that was a little bit heavier. It worked better for the bottom shelf as well. And then secondly, the ephemera. So Matthew had some ribbon tins and books. I had a couple ribbon tins, books, and other doodads. And then I went down to the shop of John Lewis here in Albuquerque, and I was able to get a number of other items that he had. Since he is a collector of mechanical antiques, he was able to supply us with some good things for the collection. So the challenge then was how to organize the shelves. So what I did is I made 4 craft paper squares that were 22 inches square. I laid them out on my table, and I used those as maquettes or mock-ups of each shelf. And I was able to place all the items on each of these 4 squares and figure out which one would go where. And then I took photos with my phone of the 4 that would help me to organize everything together and set it up. So then I got everything together. I had 4 cardboard boxes, one for each shelf. I placed the items on, and then I made labels. I used my IBM Selectric and made all the labels and information tags for everything with a typewriter. And so, loaded up the car, and today we headed out to Cherry Hills Library to set it all up. Okay, let's start with the top shelf and see what I put in there. Well, the centerpiece of the top shelf, of course, is the Corona 3. This is from 1929 approximately. It's been fully restored by Bill Wall, including all new rubber and it's a beautiful machine. And then I have a little card threaded into it describing the history of the Corona 3, how it derived from the standard folding typewriter, and they were in production, the Corona 3 was, from about 1914 to right about the start of the American participation in World War II. So that's the Corona 3, the centerpiece of the collection. In front of it is my Keylocks typing ruler. And this is a elite size typing ruler scale that's used for measuring lines and character spacings. So in the back of the cabinet on the left is a portrait of Christopher Latham Scholes. And this particular print was on display at a museum in Minneapolis. And John Lewis owns this picture. And I put a little descriptive typewritten card on the picture describing who Christopher Latham Scholes was in the development of the first practical typewriter that went into manufacture. So in the right rear corner of the first shelf is the TouchWrite Perfect Touch System Teacher. This is a little cardboard touch typing job aid that was used either with a phonograph record as a self-teaching aid, or it was used in classrooms. And then on the right front, I have several ribbon tins. And then over on the left front, I have a Blickensderfer type elements. There was a box of 3 type elements donated by John Lewis. And then in the front is a Blickensderfer ink roller and a little typewritten card describing the Blickensderfer and the history of that. So the second shelf was the Webster XL747 made by Brother, donated, of course, by Matthew. And in the front and on the left and to the right of that typewriter are some Brother ephemera that came with his typewriter. This especially colorful Brother brochure I put on the very front. There's an instruction manual, a touch typing guide on the right, and a little warranty card threaded into the typewriter itself. And then in the back left is the novel called Olivetti, which is an interesting, fun novel. It's been rather popular these days. And, of course, Richard Polt's The Typewriter Revolution in the back center. And our very own Waz Flint and her book, The Distraction-Free First Draft, which talks about how to start writing a book or novel using a typewriter. And she did use a typewriter to write that book. We're very proud of Waz. Way to go. And then on the front corners, left and right, are ribbon tins. Okay, the third shelf is the Hermes Rocket. This is another lightweight typewriter. This particular one from 1958 was actually made by license in England by George Salter and Company factory, licensed from Pollard Bolex, who is the maker of the Hermes typewriters. So behind the Hermes is the typewriter book, colorful picture book, and then in the middle is The Secret of Typewriting Speed. This was written by Margaret B. Owen. She was a famous speed typist, and this book was donated by John Lewis. And then The Typewriter and Innovation in Writing was my book I donated on the right rear. There was a little ephemera tag about Royal Safari typewriters in front of that book on the right rear. And then on the right side is a ribbon tin, and in front of that is a collection of 5 typewriter oil bottles I got from John Lewis. 4 of those bottles have oil in them still. And then on the left side is a Royal Mercury owner's manual donated by Matthew, and a ribbon tin in the left front. And then going finally to the bottom shelf, we have the Corona Standard from 1938 with my little candelabra, magnetic candelabra on the right side of the ribbon cover. So the books in the back are a typewriting instruction book, like a timed writing instruction book. And then the middle is Typing Made Simple. And on the right is a history of the typewriter. Then ribbon tins all around the Corona typewriter. And then on the left side and right side adjacent to the typewriter are some correct type correction strips. And in the far front left corner is a little matchbox that is more correct type correction film strips. And I have a little placard indicating a little bit about what correction strips are for those people that don't know. So that is the display cabinet piece by piece, and here is what it looks like, all 4 shelves together. It's quite a handsome display. I want to thank my friend Matthew specifically and John Lewis for donating
all the items in this display.
It took us a while to get the display set up, and it was a little bit different in places than I had planned for because the glass shelves are so slippery that things were wanting to slip around. But we got it finally. So this is going to be up for the entire month of May in Albuquerque in the Cherry Hills Library in Northeast Albuquerque. And then also this month we're having a type-in here at the same library. We hope to see you there. But in the meantime, it's great to do outreach to the community and spread the word about our Typewriter Society and typewriters in general. In any event, stay creative and have yourselves a great day, and bye-bye for now.